So, thank you for joining us today. We are in Dallas, Texas, with some Capillary senior leaders discussing the intersection of digital and loyalty. Here we have Jim Sturm, who is our strategic advisor, focusing on mergers and acquisitions. Bill Swift, who is our chief technical architect, and John O'Neill, who is the president of our digital practice. So, welcome.
Thank you, Megan.
Thank you.
I'll give a little background on why digital is so important to any loyalty firm. So, as you should know by now, Capillary is now 15, 16 years old, established first in the Asia market, and we moved to the US in a very strategic fashion. One of the strategic aspects of coming to the US was to acquire a digital capability. So John O'Neill has been introduced. John is the president of our digital practice and came to us as part of an acquisition of a company called Persuade. That was back in 2021. And what was really key, that acquisition was focused on two things. One, establishing a real foothold in the US. And number two, the digital practice was critical because loyalty and digital really have become tied in a very strategic way. And that's the focus of our session today.
Great. So that perfectly sets up my first question for you, Jim. So why is digital becoming such a critical component in loyalty strategies today?
You know, whenever I answer questions like this, I love to talk about history to help answer why, because we learn from history and we build upon what's been successful. So if you think historically, I'm going back 20 years ago, companies were just starting to launch mobile apps, and the mobile or the digital experience was oftentimes completely different than the in-store experience. And this created a real consumer dissatisfaction. I'll use the word consumer with the definition of anyone that buys something from a brand. Whether it's a B2B or a B2C brand, it doesn't matter. So companies 20 years ago started to build and launch mobile apps. However, the price you may pay or the experience you would have was very different in-store versus through the mobile app or online. This evolution and this consumer demand created a need for them to become one, a consistent experience. Consumers demanded a consistent experience, and so therefore that's why digital became so important in today's world. Loyalty and digital became very critically tied together from a perspective of the need for loyalty programs to evolve beyond transactional programs. So loyalty programs of the past were very transactional oriented, you know, buy 9 things, get the 10th free, or earn some points, and they were very transactional. Mobile and digital allowed what I'll call the 3 E's, the ability to create experiences and emotional loyalty through a digital experience. So we moved beyond the transaction. We started to do things like enabling taking surveys or watching videos or playing games, all these experiential aspects of a loyalty program which helped evolve loyalty strategies beyond the transaction.
Okay, so this next question is for you, John. So how does digital enhance a brand's ability to create those personalized loyalty experiences?
Well, there's a lot of ways. I think the biggest is via mobile apps and being on the person's phone, which our phones have become an extension of pretty much every aspect of our lives. So I always say to people, if you're not in every aspect of their lives, how are you doing loyalty? You know, the phone also provides us, I think Starbucks is a good example of, you know, kind of a North Star brands have chased for a while that still does a really good job with their mobile experience as it pertains to customer loyalty and customer engagement. You know, being in the person's phone while they're engaging with your brand, it becomes your hub for gathering data on the brand. It gives you the ability to offer personalized experiences. I think a good example, you know, that always gets me is when I'm driving by a Starbucks and it's a hot sunny day and they remind me to come in and get a nice cold iced tea. But I really feel that, mobile, because it's such an extension of our lives and such a critical component to all of our lives, is probably the biggest opportunity for brands to inject digital into their loyalty strategies.
John, if I could add to that, I think the company that really started this personalization, you got to go to Amazon. And if you remember, way back when we all joined into Amazon, and really through its digital capabilities, it disrupted highly the retail space. And then one day we all got this note that said, because you bought this, you might like that. And to me, that was like, wow, look how much they know about me. Look at this data they're gathering. And so when we talk about personalization, Amazon really was on the forefront of this ability to personalize. Using data, Starbucks is a great example. I think Amazon was the first. Yeah. But using data to personalize this experience. At first I thought, whoa, this is a little creepy, I don't like this, but then what did it do? It created a very easy experience for me. I also could see, what did others think of this purchase? And so then the ability to see reviews and the ability to understand through data how personalized a brand can make the experience, which creates simplicity in our lives.
Yeah, and I think, while things have tempered a little bit since COVID as far as like digital engagement with brands, now that we're getting back into stores and things like that, I do still think that COVID forever changed how people are going to engage with brands and accelerated the digital engagement with brands. Users like my mother who didn't used to use a mobile app were forced to during that time. So now it's exponentially more critical for brands to have, in my opinion, some connection to that extension, the phone, the mobile experience extension of people's everyday lives.
So Bill, for you, what role does customer data play in shaping successful digital loyalty strategy?
Yeah, Jim and John both have mentioned personalization several times. And customer data is essential to get personalization that's delivered primarily through digital channels. Ironically, sometimes we joke actually that a loyalty engine per se, it really can't do anything without data. And it all starts with helping our clients become customer-centric, understanding their preferences. They're giving up their profile, their preferences, they're answering survey questions. And we need to use that information and those responses to personalize their experience, which is primarily through the digital channels. So the engine, and also one thing that comes up a lot is privacy and the extent that we're going to capture PII data as part of a loyalty execution. And the loyalty engine itself technically doesn't need personal information to be very targeted and to serve up what ultimately become personal experiences through the digital channels. So we actually have many programs where all that we have on the back end engine is a kind of archaic cryptic customer ID. But through collaboration with the digital channels, when we're delivering that experience to the consumer, it's super important to link those things together, to have these challenges be personalized, to serve up offers and promotional engagements, challenges, milestones, targets that are unique to those individual people. And so it helps, consumers really expect, in exchange for that data that they're giving us, they expect an elevated experience. And it's, again, delivered through those digital channels. I mean, one example that I like to give is that when you're interacting with a person or a flight attendant or the technology itself, that they're thanking you for something specific that you did. The loyalty engine communicated through the digital channel. We know everything about the consumer, their profile, transaction activity, behavioral events, engagement activities, And it's really important that all that comes together to deliver that customer experience to the consumer.
Absolutely. I mean, I think that it's a good point calling out the data privacy stuff. I think similar to where we struggled with some demographics of getting technology adoption. We have a lot of people have had a lot of anxiety around data privacy. However, I think as you show them the value that they get out of sharing their data, we're seeing more and more adoption and less concern around data privacy. To go back to Starbucks, like I love, and Starbucks in my mind does it the best. They know what offers to get me with. Other QSR brands, some of my favorite brands, some of our customers, we can't name customers unfortunately, but they do a phenomenal job of serving up an offer that's tailored to me and my purchase history. Maybe even taking into account things like the weather or trends or seasonal things as well. So I growing up a technologist have always been kind of fearful of data privacy things, but now I'm because of these awesome loyalty strategies, I'm willing to give up any of my data to make my experiences with these brands more personal and easier.
It's clearly a value exchange.
Correct.
In exchange for this is who I am, really elevate my experience with the brand. They expect that. And if that doesn't come together in a powerful way for the consumer, they're going to move on.
Absolutely.
So this is for probably all three of y'all. A big touch point or hot topic now. So how can brands effectively balance technology while also still having that human touch point, within these loyalty strategies? Who wants to start?
I'll go first. I think we talk a lot about the digital channels and the customer experience that they participate in through those channels, but you can't underestimate the human component. And whether it's a flight attendant or an associate in the store or a concierge in a hotel, the people that are on the front lines with the consumer need to extend that personalization and that experience in a human way, verbally. And in order to do that effectively, from a tech perspective, they need the tools in front of them to do that. Whether it's a handheld device or a property management system, they need the information at their fingertips, a clienteling tool, for example, in retail, so they can understand who they're speaking with and do it in such a way that it's seamless, so it feels natural that you're having a face-to-face conversation or with a call center. But in that case, putting on the screen, this is what you should say to that person next, and using AI and tools to help facilitate that human conversation. So the human component, super critical, but they need the tools to enable the dialogue.
Yeah, I think it's about what you said, like having a seamless experience between the digital and the in-person or in-store, whatever have you experience. I think every year I take a couple nieces Christmas shopping to the Nike store, and it's phenomenally seamless experience between my Nike membership program, going to the store. That associate's able to have a more engaging personal experience with me, not based off of their memory, but based off of, like you say, having the data in their hands to to quickly become familiar with all of my preferences, my past buying purchases. The greatest example is this past winter. Like, I took a couple nieces shopping in the store, and the associate quickly looked through our past history and brought out recommendations based on what we had bought in the past. Addressed me by name. My niece's profiles are saved in the app. Knew their names, right? Like, so to your point, like, digital is actually making it more personal than that associate would have been able to make it without that tool.
My favorite example was on the airplane, and it's happened several times now, but you're sitting there with your family, And the flight attendant comes up before the flight takes off. Thank you, Mr. Swift, for being with us again today. If there's anything I can do for you, let me know. And it was just, you feel great. I mean, that's the emotional part that you alluded to earlier, Jim. I felt great. And then she left, and the kids were like, what was that all about? That's because, I mean, she's aware. I mean, she knows that we fly a lot, and in exchange, we got a really nice thank you.
You know, I've said forever that the most important aspect of a loyalty strategy is the store associate, the brand ambassador, whoever it is that's communicating with the end consumer. In technology, digital capabilities have only made that person more powerful. Bill's example is great because 3 key words. Thank you is so powerful. Everyone loves to be told thank you. I've spent my money with your brand, you should say thank you to me and know my name. So when they said thank you, Mr. Swift, on the airplane, that's extremely powerful. He already expressed the emotion it made him feel, and he's going to never forget that. As opposed to a $5 certificate, which he will quickly forget or probably never use. It is more powerful to create an experience which creates this emotional bond between a consumer and a brand. And when Bill mentioned something really important, brands need to be careful because AI is now the new buzzword. And every brand is now using AI to serve up, and it may be chatbots, it may be customer service through AI. We need to be really careful to create a seamless experience where there's still brand ambassadors, there's still human beings interacting with human beings, and using the power of digital and the power of AI to simply make that experience greater.
Yeah, I think that's spot on, because we all have experienced the chatbots and how unhelpful they are.
Right.
Versus what one of our customers, a major nationwide retailer, uses the AI for in regard to customer service. They still have live people aided by AI to more quickly get these guys probably have a 5 million SKUs, right? So to more quickly get the consumer an answer from a human, they're leveraging AI to make them better at their jobs, but they're not replacing that human experience.
Yeah, I said in the beginning, digital and the in-store experience were very disconnected. And now we're seeing some disconnect, especially when we call into any company for help. Because I'll call in and I'll have to press buttons and never get anywhere. And then it asks me for what's my account number, what's my name, all this information. I finally get to a person and they ask me to repeat everything I said on the phone. And to me, you've just completely dissatisfied me. I dislike you as a brand. In fact, if I'm in a bad mood, I'll say, why are you asking me this? I put all that information in on the phone. And then we'll, of course, get into some argument. They'll try to apologize. However, at that point, my experience is a dissatisfied experience. So these capabilities are seamlessly integrated. However, we need to continually worry about the experience our consumers are going through.
Yeah. To your guys' point, like make sure that the experience is seamless from the various touch points. Yeah, there's nothing more frustrating than when technology is used poorly and you don't have that continuity between your digital and your in-person engagement.
Well, you find yourself calling in and just saying, agent, agent, agent.
For 10 minutes until you finally get an agent.
We had IVR integration 15 years ago that would route calls appropriately based on who that person was. So it's not new. But with the advancement of AI and tools and chatbots, I think it really is important that they're not all customer facing. Let them talk to a person and have the technology make the conversation more personal and relevant.
All right, well, y'all both hit on AI. What other kind of emerging technologies do you see kind of affecting this space?
Well, I mean, I know it's scary to a lot of people still, but in my personal opinion, AI and machine learning are the future of everything in our lives. Like it or not, it's too powerful of a force to stop. I think it's as big as, if not bigger than when the internet was launched. And And it's really not something we should be scared of. It's a new tool, right? And back to the last question of like, you know, making sure that we're using this tool coupled with and seamlessly connected to the human experiences. But without a doubt, if you're not using AI, your personalization isn't going to be as good as companies that are. Your ability to meet the consumer where they're at isn't going to be as good able to be done to the extent of your competitors. So it's a tool that I understand the nervousness and the anxiety around it, but it's not going anywhere, and it's not scary. It just needs to be a tool that we learn how to use properly.
One thing I think that we've seen already that's super powerful is behind the scenes, so behind that customer experience delivered through those channels, is, we call it a co-pilot, but it's AI and ML algorithms helping the marketer be more effective and efficient. So we call them nudges or recommendations, but really guiding the marketer on what they should do next. I mean, every successful program has to evolve. And if the technology's helping a professional marketer understand where they should take the program next, then it just reduces that time to market, and they can interact with the platform, they can approve of recommendations. In a perfect world, they can say, I agree with that recommendation, set it up for me, and then have the generative capabilities help execute that. So there's a behind-the-scenes productivity gain as well that we're already seeing, but I think that's a powerful use of AI.
Yeah, Bill's actually referring to an aspect of the Capillary platform, which has been there for quite a while. We call it nudge, but it's really where the platform, through the use of AI and ML, is strategically helping a brand make their program better, make their loyalty program better. Bill, I have to ask you a question because I know this is close to your heart. What else besides AI and ML is happening from a tech perspective? For example, I know you know a lot about facial recognition, but what else is happening?
Yeah, we actually implemented facial identity solutions in loyalty through a double opt-in process years ago. But now, I mean, similar to AI, it's everywhere. It's all around us. I mean, so we're using biometrics to pay for things with your palm or facial identity, to get into VIP lounges, to unlock your phone. I mean, there's so many use cases of it now, but it kind of relates back to that customer data topic in general, and which all starts with customer identification. And the more seamless you can make that experience, the better for the consumer. We have systems and partners where you can walk into a fast food restaurant, quick serve restaurant, and literally look at the associate, and the kiosk will ask you if you want the same thing you got last time you were there, and you say yes, and you're done. The order's been placed, it's been paid for, but it starts, and your points have been generated. If you had rewards in your account, you can choose to redeem them or not, but it all starts with who are you, and biometrics have become a really key way to do that. I think, again, back to privacy, and it took a while to get that going and off the ground, but as long as in a lot of cases, the consumers, you're taking your own picture and adding it to your profile, and in exchange of that information, again, you expect a better, more seamless experience interacting with the brand. So I think this biometric identity is another one that's not necessarily new anymore, but we still don't see a lot of use cases for loyalty where that's being used effectively.
You know, I always say we need to build upon what's been successful in the past. So loyalty programs began a long time ago, and great examples would be your favorite pub or your favorite restaurant, where when you walk in, they know you by your face. They recognize you, you've been there before, they say thank you, they engage with you, you have a personalized conversation, and they know what you like. They may know the drink you like, they may know the food you like, and they'll simply say, do you want the same as last time? Facial recognition is taking that and using the power of technology to replicate that experience. And the best brands are slowly, but in a very sophisticated way, utilizing these technologies.
You think about that case where most consumers are part of between 5 and 10 different programs. Back in the day, you had your little key fob and your QR code, and now everyone has a wallet.
Card.
And so, your identity's spread across these digital wallets and the cards that you're scanning, and you can't forget your face. So, or your palm. So if you've registered those mechanisms as part of your profile, it just becomes a natural way to interact with the brand.
And they're a key part of loyalty strategies. Our session today is about digital and loyalty and the integration, and they become key part of loyalty strategies because they enable this personalization, which creates this satisfying experience for a consumer, and therefore the consumer wants to come back more, visit more, spend more with your brand.
Yeah, and just the last kind of point on AI, really all it's doing, it's a super accelerant of our ability to look at data and understand our customer, right? It's just, a billion times, allows us to do things a billion times more dynamic and efficient than we've been able to in the past. But other areas I think that of emerging tech that I see brands exploring with and anticipate as a big part of the future is extended or virtual reality types of experiences. I think Sephora does a great job with like the the VR ability to try on makeup. Nike lets you try on shoes. IKEA lets you see what furniture would look like if it fits within your home. And then there's, that's kind of more the tactical side. And then there's also, it bleeds into more of a social side of engagement with customers. We always talk about engagement beyond the purchase. And I think these technologies are really allowing us to do this engagement beyond the purchase. I think Peloton's a great example of creating a community and social experience. Nike's Run Club, another great example.
AR example, several years ago now, but it was in the C-store space, and you're delivered through your phone, obviously, and you're interacting with Dak Prescott. But you had to find, it was like a treasure hunt almost, because you had to go through the store quickly and find an item. And once you've done that successfully, from an engagement perspective, you actually got points in the program for doing that. But it's just another non-transactional way to get people really connected with the program and the experience in the store, the intersection between digital and real life, and in that case, allowing people to earn loyalty currency as part of participating in the brand.
If you did that right, you would know maybe I don't like the Dallas Cowboys and Dak Prescott, but you could substitute my favorite quarterback's name.
And I think that a year ago, and maybe even some people still right now, the metaverse we thought was a bust and isn't going to be a thing, but those extended reality experiences are gaining momentum. I think much more quickly than anyone anticipated. I think the newest headset V3 is $300. You don't need a computer for it, so it's a completely immersive experience for $300. I see big tech companies using it as a strategy for remote work engagement. We see enterprise brands using it as a way for communal engagement. So I think that space of augmented and extended reality is inevitably a part of our future in loyalty as well.
I think Starbucks was first actually to put their program in the metaverse.
Correct.
So you could use
you could actually earn points.
Digital currency to buy a Starbucks. You walk around and talk to your friends, and the logo's there, and they got real world credit for that virtual transaction.
So we touched on a lot of different trends, strategies, but how do you actually measure the success of a digital strategy within loyalty?
So that's an important question. We've heard a lot of cool stuff here, which cool stuff costs money. And digital costs money. John made a great point. COVID really accelerated digital. If a company wasn't investing in digital, they certainly did through COVID, and they found the money. However, every investment requires a measurement. And so typically the way to measure any strategy, any investment is through an ROI measurement, right? Your return on the investment. All these technologies cost money, digital costs money, launching a loyalty program costs money. When done right, the ROI measure will be very positive. And where digital and loyalty really impact ROI is through top line revenue. So the ultimate measure of a digital loyalty strategy is top line revenue increases. What does that mean? You want your best customers to shop more and visit more? Coming back one more time a year will pay for everything. So you want to measure top line sales of your best customers. You want a good program will draw more customers to join the program. They will want to earn the benefits of the program, and therefore they will spend more and they will visit more. Another critical component of loyalty programs was what I will refer to as category heavy splitters. These are people that shop a lot in the category, and through a strong digital loyalty strategy, you will influence them, you will motivate them to shop more with your brand as opposed to the competition. The best example is Home Depot and Lowe's. 5 years ago, all of us as consumers didn't see much difference between the two experiences at Home Depot and Lowe's. It was really a matter of which store is closer to me, which store was I able to not make a left-hand turn, but make a right-hand turn, and therefore I would shop at. We're now seeing both of those brands launch loyalty initiatives because people in that category, the home improvement spend category, spend a lot of money. So if one of those brands can really get this right, they will really steal share from the others and therefore improve on top line revenue. So ROI is the ultimate measure. The biggest thing you can do about ROI from a digital loyalty perspective is top line revenue influence. And then there's what I'll call leading indicators. The leading indicators are the number of visits, the number of open rates, the number of engagements with the brand. So all of these are leading indicators, but ultimately it's about generating more top-line sales for a brand through really well-integrated and smart digital and loyalty strategies.
And I think before you launch, there should be some level of measurement. Just like we build a pro forma for a loyalty construct based on what we're seeing in our competitors, we should be making those, building those same pro formas for our digital investments versus just trying to play copycat. It's pretty cool offering, partnering with our strategy team at Capillary, that as they're building the loyalty construct and we're considering digital investments, we're building out the pro forma for both your loyalty construct and how your digital experience can accelerate that. So I think measurement should be done at the very beginning, so people understand that value and understand where to make the right digital investments.
And that's a good point, because then you've created a benchmark, right? You've created, here's where we were beforehand, and let's really understand the improvement. I've actually seen a lot of companies that decided not to launch a loyalty program because the pro forma created really said that they were not going to generate the top line revenue enhancements that had been hoped for. But from a digital perspective, pretty much every brand has a digital experience today. However, there still are plenty of brands that don't.
Yeah, and the biggest mistake in my almost 20 years now in the digital space that I've seen is not building that financial plan and pro forma at the onset of your project, and doing this new digital experience, getting into the metaverse because it sounds cool and some marketing idea, or one of your peer brands is doing it, and so you feel like you have to. I've seen, hundreds of millions of dollars wasted on investments that it's kind of in a Me Too fashion, where again, like I think it's a really awesome offering, working with our strategy team as you're building out your pro forma for your loyalty construct, doing the same thing for your digital investments.
And the topic of measurement really brings us full circle back to data, because you have to prove that incrementality. And I know a lot of times our strategy team will be up with the CFO having to prove that just because they're your best customers, that you truly are influencing their behavior. You're driving incremental visits and spend, and it's not just because they're your best customers. You got to attribute that lift back to the program itself, which starts with a baseline, so you have something to measure against, and then show the difference that the program's making. So it's then viewed as a profit center and not an expense. And Jim, you mentioned category heavy splitter. I mean, that starts with knowing that Jim shops 50% at Lowe's and 50% at Home Depot. And the only way to really know that is to ask the consumer where else they shop, so you can show that difference over time. And so it's a use of attribution or preferences or survey response data. You can get it in several different ways, but capturing as part of their profile, as part of an individual consumer's profile, that then you can aggregate up and show that you've had that shift in behavior over time. So yeah, that was full circle question, Megan, I think, from measurement all the way back to how are you going to measure that? It all comes back to the data that's being collected.
So as we're starting to wrap up the conversation, one last question, and then you can add any closing thoughts. How do you keep these customers digitally engaged in the long term?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's where we started. We need to be a part of that extension of their lives, that the mobile extension of their lives. And I think it's through all of the examples that we shared throughout this discussion of personalization, meeting them where they're at as I drive by a Starbucks, or McDonald's has this really cool new AI powered dynamic menu that provides you personalized recommendations and takes into account, again, like the weather, the time of the month. So it's all these experiences outside of the transaction that either digital facilitates directly with your consumer, or digital helps an in-person experience become that much more rich and personalized by providing the associate with information on your consumers and the connection to your consumers. So I think it's all the strategies we've talked about. Jim, I don't know how you engaged customers in the long term before digital.
Well, you didn't. And what digital has enabled is, let's think about it. One of the first things a brand understands is what's the typical frequency of a transaction. And for some brands, at best, it may be once a month. It may be, Starbucks maybe once or twice a week. However, how do you keep engaging with that consumer between the transaction is what we call it. And digital became the answer, because you could do, everyone's familiar with gamification, so we could send John a pop to his app and say, hey, spin the wheel today and earn a free cup of coffee. Or another example is surveys. I talked about category heavy splitters, and Bill said the way to measure that is through surveys. So digital can prompt a survey, answer 5 questions, earn a free cup of coffee. Okay, or a brand may be struggling with their brand image, and they may say, hey, watch this quick video about our brand and earn something. So digital has really been the powerful tool to enable keeping customers engaged, keeping consumers engaged between the transaction, especially important for lower frequency transaction brands.
Absolutely. Like, I think of the power of of shoe drops and what those have on the younger generations, right? That engagement, the anticipation of it, the execution of it, the engagement with the shoe drop, I can't think of a better, outside of the transaction, brand experience that you could market to your consumer. And only digital allows you to have that touch point.
The key framework in a lot of programs, they think about tier structures and earning possibilities, opportunities. Transactional is kind of foundational. But these promotional and challenges, these different time-based events that can be communicated through the app, notification comes up and it keeps it fresh for the consumer that there's something new that I can participate in. And in the best case, it's unique to them. We've set targets for them that are driving incremental visits or spend, and they feel good about that. Sometimes there's a leaderboard, so they get competitive in interacting with that. So it keeps it top of mind, even if that typical transaction cadence is monthly or even once a year. You have to be interacting and experiencing the brand on a more regular basis. And the digital channel is the best way to do that.
Yeah, absolutely. Like the IKEA, right? How often do you really go buy new furniture? But when you use the IKEA VR experience, you shop for quite a bit of furniture, thinking about what you want to buy next, right? And that connection, like, you know, how many billions or millions of dollars is that worth? I don't know, but it seems pretty invaluable to me. And of course, again, only by extending their relationship with your brand through emerging digital technologies.
One thing I think that's really important, and I love this actually about Capillary, is a lot of times when we're putting in a new program or migrating an existing program onto the platform, there's a lot of technical architects that get together to talk about that systems integration, which is really important. But the part that's really more powerful is to do that from the context of the customer experience that we're trying to enable. So every use case should start with the consumer, how they're going to interact with across those human touch points that we touched on, the digital channels, the website, the app, the call center. And if you drive the design from a CX perspective in, the technology always kind of falls into place. But it's really that experience that we're trying to enable. And it's really powerful when you bring the core engine together with that customer-facing channel.
Absolutely. Yep. And again, to your point, something that I think Capillary, well, the other digital agencies and loyalty agencies I've worked with and I'm familiar with, you know, partnering with our strategy team early while we're creating constructs for our clients and jointly creating the experience for our clients beyond just the transactional experience, the complementary digital experiences really uniquely positions us to help companies bring digital into their loyalty strategy or loyalty into their digital strategy.
Megan, you asked about closing thoughts. In the beginning, again, our subject is digital technologies and loyalty strategies and the unification of both. And, you know, Bill mentioned it extremely well. It's in today's world, it is all about your consumer's experience with your brand. How seamless it is, how personalized it is, how integrated it may be with the in-store experience. And, you know, back to the beginning of our conversation, Capillary recognized 5 years ago that while they had the most powerful platform, a platform alone is simply an engine that if not deployed correctly and not utilized correctly, you will be getting minimal results from that engine. So therefore, the acquisition of Persuade was the start of how we really understand from a Capillary perspective how to help our brands, our customers, deploy the best possible consumer experience. And that consumer experience in today's world is critically dependent on digital strategies combined with loyalty strategies, creating this unique consumer experience that can drive the results that we've talked about today. So
Absolutely.
I think that's
Well,
back to Megan.
Jim, Bill, John, thank you for sharing your wealth of knowledge and your experience or extreme expertise. And thank you all for joining us today.